news breaks every single minute, whether it's here in Times Square, a bridge collapse in Minneapolis, a war zone, or a college campus in Virginia. And now you have the power to be the very first to record it. So in this next hour, you're going to meet real people who captured real stories. You'll see their videos and the story behind the video. iReport is happening. iReport is now.
Oh! Don't take me, bro!
Hi everybody, I'm Rick Sanchez. This is so different from how we've brought you television news for the last half century. Think about it. We have been covering breaking news around the world 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But now we're doing it with something we've never had before. Your pictures. You see, 2007 saw the emergence of a new pillar in journalism, citizen journalism. In places all over the world, some that we never could have gotten to ourselves, you, the viewer, picked up your camera, your cell phones, your Blackberries, and your iPhones, and you documented what was happening right before your very eyes. We're going to start with Virginia Tech. Word spreads that a shooting, one that would go down as the deadliest school shooting in U.S. history. And while most times we see the aftermath of a story like this, iReport allowed us to experience it as people there were experiencing it. The tranquil campus of Virginia Tech lies nestled in the Blue Ridge Mountains of southwest Virginia. But on a gray and chilly morning in April, that serenity is suddenly shattered when a mentally disturbed and heavily armed Virginia Tech student walks into a classroom building, chains the doors shut, and begins shooting. Jamal al-Barghouti, a graduate student, is on his way to meet an advisor when he realizes something is wrong.
There were many police officers trying to go somewhere, so they knew that something was happening wrong.
Unaware of the threat to his own safety, Jamal grabs his cell phone and begins recording. Jamal sends video to CNN, where iReport producer Tyson Wheatley instantly knows this is big.
We watched it and we thought, wow, this is incredible video. We've got to get it on the air.
We get some very frightening images coming in from an iReport. Jamal al-Barghouti is, I believe, on the phone with us now. And Jamal, pretty unbelievable pictures that you have there. Tell us what you were able to see with your own naked eye.
I saw the cops with guns, and they were asking everyone to lay down or to leave really quickly. So I knew that this wasn't another bomb threat. I knew that it's something way more serious than that. So I started taking the video.
Jamal doesn't know it, but the sound of gunfire he's recording is not coming from police. Rather, from the killer, Sung-Hui Cho, as he shoots indiscriminately at students and teachers. As word of the massacre spreads on campus, more frightening pictures and more iReports.
When I got out in the hall of my dorm, I actually heard police sirens, and that's when I started to think something strange was up.
Casey Clark is a sophomore at Virginia Tech.
When I went a little further and saw the policemen around and all the cop cars, that's when I realized, wow, something really is up.
Casey files these iReports, including this video of police searching the hallway outside his dorm room.
That was the scariest point of the day, even though it was hours later, because it was real to me at that point.
All that day and for days after, hundreds of students continued to send iReports, the most CNN had ever received. Some capture the horror, others the heartache, as the Hokie community comes together to remember the 32 lost and pray for the 17 injured. But one iReport stands alone.
I think in almost every major news event, there's typically, sort of one defining image or video that is sort of burned into your mind. And I think in this case, it happened to be someone's cell phone video.
I mean, it was an amazing piece of journalism and an amazing piece of history. That iReport is history.
Now let's go from a college campus in Virginia to what should have been a routine commute home in Minneapolis. 140,000 cars cross the I-35 West Bridge every single day. Then, August 1st, this huge bridge had cars backed up on it because of road construction. What I'm describing is the beginning of a nightmare. It's chaos in Minnesota as a major interstate bridge carrying rush hour traffic suddenly buckles, then collapses right into the Mississippi River.
I just arrived home from work.
Outside his Minneapolis apartment window, Mark LaCroix is watching. It's chaos in Minnesota as a major interstate bridge carrying rush hour traffic suddenly buckles, then collapses right into the Mississippi River.
I just arrived home from work, and suddenly there's a huge rumbling noise.
Outside his Minneapolis apartment window, 20 stories above the horrific scene, Mark LaCroix is watching.
Really, I had no idea really what I was looking at. I didn't really believe it at first.
He calls 911, but it's busy.
I couldn't tell anybody. I couldn't call authorities. So I just grabbed a camera, leaned out my window, snap, 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 uploaded to my computer, and just sent it to the first place I could figure, which was CNN's iReport.
We were just getting word that a bridge may have collapsed in Minneapolis. The initial reporting was sort of muddled, as it always is, and then all of a sudden we got Mark's iReport and we saw these pictures and we put them right on the air in the Situation Room. We have an eyewitness who has seen what's going on. Mark LaCroix is joining us. Mark, you took these pictures. Tell us what we're seeing.
Well, there's a number of fire trucks on the scene, as well as there's police all over. There are boats in the water now, rescue boats.
Mark isn't the only one witnessing and documenting the disaster.
As soon as I heard it on TV, that's when I immediately grabbed my bike and just went down there with my camera.
Steve DeWarrick gets to the scene just 10 minutes after it happens.
There's sirens everywhere. There's people running, just screaming, running, people crying. It was just chaos. And I knew that if I really wanted to see firsthand and real close, that I had to go very below, and I went right up to the water. This is where I was about 30 yards from the scene, seeing cars in the water, the bridge laying there, and it was just a sight I didn't think I would ever see in my entire life. It looked straight out of a movie.
A movie with dramatic scenes that will continue to play out.
Within 24 hours of the Minneapolis Bridge collapse, we received just hundreds of iReports, 468 within the first 24 hours. They were coming in so quickly that we couldn't keep up with them.
For CNN reporters, they're invaluable.
When I looked at some of the iReports coming in from the Minnesota Bridge collapse, I was able, because it is my home state, to look at it and say, wow, that's the I-35 bridge. That goes right to the University of Minnesota.
It drives the immediacy of the story home, it drives the intensity of the story, and it drives the magnitude of the story home.
As the night wears on, the magnitude of the story keeps growing. More iReports filter in. When it's over, 13 are dead, many trapped in their cars underwater. Hundreds are injured. And Mark LaCroix, whose early reports were key to understanding this unfolding tragedy, keeps his role in perspective.
The people who really did something that day are the first responders, the people who were on the bridge helping out their fellow man, and thankfully I was able to witness it and share it.
That disaster was man-made. The one that I'm about to tell you about now is a force of nature. Here's a front row seat to an earthquake in Indonesia as it happens.
This has happened a few times in Singapore, and yeah, we've gotten quite used to it, but it hasn't been this vigorous before.
Earthquakes shook another part of the world. Now, in the largest earthquake to hit coastal Peru in 2 centuries, more than 500 people are killed, more than 1,000 are injured. Here's what iReporter Fernando Calderon sent us right from the scene.
In the hotel room, and I thought it was an airplane. It was just passing probably too low, and there was a little, the ground started moving a little bit. So we started heading out of the hotel, and then we realized everybody was out, and the ground was still shaking for a minute, and then suddenly we start hearing glass breaking, things falling out of the buildings. And that's when everybody started screaming, praying, children crying. It was just awful.
The force of nature is also felt in the form of fire. California is no stranger to wildfires, and this one was one of the biggest and baddest that Californians have ever been through. Think about it. More than 1 million people forced to abandon their homes.
It looks like hell. I mean, flames are shooting up around you. There's no visibility.
Southern California, wildfires rage out of control. Nearly 1 million people have to flee their homes.
I feel like I'm in some kind of like weird freakish, movie or something.
iReporters on the front lines begin sending in eyewitness accounts. Images of smoke fill the skies. Wildfire crews try desperately to battle the wind-whipped flames. By the time the flames die down, 3,125 iReports will be sent to CNN.
Noticing a lot of smoke and hear a lot of helicopters over and fire engines in the background.
Kind of chaotic. We don't know, where exactly the fires are. I took a picture this morning, and it looked like snow was falling, but it was actually all the ash falling.
iReporter James Fabin saw this fire in Orange County minutes after it started. Later, he was on the air with his first-hand pictures and video.
And probably the most amazing thing that I think this video shows is how strong the wind is. You can really hear it just pounding against all of us.
Later, James took us back to the spot where he shot his amazing video, showing us the now burned-out hillside that had filled the skies with thick black smoke.
But it looked like night, the clouds smoke just covering the entire sky and blocking out the entire sun.
With flames approaching their homes, some iReporters stay behind and capture the devastation.
They actually gave us a voluntary evacuation yesterday, but we decided we were going to stay put.
At the rate that these flames are going through the neighborhoods, you really have to be ready at a moment's notice. We have all of our belongings packed up in our vehicles, and if the fire gets too close, we'll be able to get out of here with the turn of a key.
iReporters Lauren Rogers and Paul Nangle took these shots of a neighborhood they thought would surely be lost. We went back with them and found that the firefighters and homeowners had been able to save every house.
When we pulled up in here, you could just see the whole area was just lit up. It had this orange, yellowish glow to it, and there was smoke everywhere.
There was a lot of smoke, a lot of flames coming up over that ridge right there.
Lauren is a PhD student and amateur photographer. Paul is a member of the National Guard just back from Iraq. They say they were able to get close to the fires by driving into an evacuated neighborhood shortly after the fires started.
Those were the most amazing iReports for me because they were right there in the middle of it, even places where our cameras can't go.
In the midst of this cauldron of fire, which consumed more than 2,000 homes in the hills of Southern California, some unforgettable images. Ted Rowland, CNN, Los Angeles.
Iraq has been in the headlines for years now, but not told like this, by a private contractor. This was shot in the fall of 2005. He was leaving Baghdad, heading for Tikrit. Only through a video like this can one understand what it must really feel like to be under attack. I'm going to do something a little different now. Who speaks for the thousands of men and women who've died in Iraq and in Afghanistan? We were sent this next video. We want you to see it because it captures the horror that is